here today. We're not endorsing anyone. We just want to hear from each candidate where they stand. And so, first of all, I want to thank the man of this house, Pastor Foster, for allowing this to take place. Talked to him last year, but Saturday was the first time that I met him. And I want to thank him for opening this house. I'm going to introduce before I turn over the mic to him. The introduction of the interviewers. We have Pastor Dale Foster of Free Spirit Ministry Worship Center. We have Pastor Christina Chavis, Abiding Love International Ministries. We have Pastor J.D. Flint, New Hope Baptist Church. And last but least, we got the bishop. Bishop Aaron B. Lackey, Temple of Prayer, Family Worship Cathedral. And right now I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Dale for reflections and prayer. Thank you.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, how we truly thank you for your bountiful blessings of this day. We come together as a community to lift your holy name today because you're worthy of all the praise. We understand and realize that you have given us a mighty charge, and we are to keep that charge. So we come together today as a community to see about the business of the community. We pray that you would speak to our hearts and our minds, that everything that we say and do in this place will be pleasing in your sight. We're lifting up each of these candidates before you today. We pray that they come with your agenda and not their own agenda. It is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. Today we're going to have the candidates from District 1 and 5, and the interviewers have their name. I want to thank all the candidates that reached out. Some had conflict of interest scheduling, but we're here to serve, and like I said, if you need anything, you can reach out to me. But again, thank you. So I'm going to turn this over to Pastor Foster.
Amen. Welcome, everyone, to this forum. We're glad to have you here at Free Spirit Ministries Worship Center. As I mentioned in the opening prayer, I believe we're here to conduct community business because that's really what it's all about. And for some reason, we've kind of gotten away from community. And that's really what I want us to focus on today is community and setting aside all of our agendas, but to make sure that we have the agenda of the community in mind. With that said, we will have a rotating schedule of questions that we'll have for each of these candidates. And let me welcome you, Ms. Rao, to Free Spirit and to this forum. I'm going to start the question with Bishop Lackey, if you will. Any question that you have for Ms. Rao?
Well, good afternoon. Dr. Rao, so good to see you once again. Let me just simply ask, I've known you a while, and I've watched you, and I've observed your calm demeanor overall on the council. Could you just explain to us what is your continued vision for your district?
What I would say from the very first time I ran was that we needed to make sure that we had quality commercial development in the city of South Fulton and in District 1 in particular. When I first started knocking on doors, that was one of the things that I heard consistently. So that's been my focus. One of the things that I say was it was really important to work with the business owners that were already there, the landowners, because they owned the land, to really get them to embrace the vision that the council had collectively set as we established the economic development plan for the city. So 2019, we adopted an economic development plan where we were going to identify these live work nodes, and I have spent most of my time working on that. Of course, in addition to that, we've had some additional residential growth in my area, as we've seen all across the city. You know, last year we were rated the fastest growing city in the state of Georgia, and so with that comes a lot of expectations from the residents. They want to spend money where they live. And I've kind of remained committed to trying to move that agenda forward, as well as to focus on the redevelopment of the Fulton Industrial Corridor. We've seen great results in terms of being able to reduce crime in the area. Very proud of the work that Chief Meadows has done in that area, and working with the Development Authority of Fulton County to address some of the long-term issues we've had associated with the hotels in that area. And as if you may have noticed, we're down to only one hotel now that remains open in the portions that is the footprint of the city of South Fulton. So I just have pretty much remained focused on that, and also working with the leaders around me in the surrounding jurisdictions. I've worked very closely with Councilwoman Marcy Overstreet. Her area is on the edge of Atlanta, and so we talk pretty regularly and try to make sure we are kind of in collaboration and in sync about moving the area, because the lines are so jagged at the very northern part of the city.
Pastor Chavez.
You've touched on a lot of questions that I had formulated here. I mean, several areas. But as it relates to transparency and accountability, and of course we know that you've been in this seat for some time, have you thought about measures to increase that accountability, especially in the wake of a new landscape of members that will be coming into the office?
Several years ago, I was the original sponsor of legislation with Councilwoman Gumbs. Open checkbook was one of the things we wanted to implement. In that way, citizens can see in real time our city expenditures. Unfortunately, staff changes and turnover impacted that being efficient. I'm very excited about our new city manager, Sharon Suppadon, because I think with the staff changes and additional staff she's putting in the finance department, we'll get back to where we were in terms of making sure that information is readily available for the constituents. So I think that's very important. As it relates to transparency, it's a lot of information out there on our city's website. People have to assess the information. They can't use social media next door as their go-to for information in terms of it being credible, but it's a lot of information that's readily available on the city's website.
Pastor Flynn.
Again, thank you so much for volunteering your time to come out here this evening with us. You mentioned about the Fulton County corridor, or the Fulton Industrial Corridor, and the hotels. What are the plans to revitalize that, especially with the fact that you mentioned there's only one now? So what are the plans to revitalize that area, and how better to get rid of the stigma of the area?
Well, part of it is, well, I'd say twofold. So the Fulton Industrial Area has a community improvement district that's held at about Gil Prado. He's done an amazing job over the years of, addressing public safety issues. So they hire additional law enforcement to help with that area. And then when the portion that came in the city of South Fulton, our police chief made it a priority to address long-term issues that were in the Fulton Industrial Corridor. I mean, you at one time could ride down that street and literally see just about anything going on. That's not the case any longer. Also, you would see that one of the priorities they had was to beautify the exit ramps. If you've seen that, they probably have some of the best landscape exit ramps in the metropolitan area. And so, again, you start with the things that are obvious and visual to most people, and we've worked on those things. In addition, there's investment that's coming to Fulton Industrial to include sidewalks, to keep workers. We have many workers that come to that area. Over 25,000 people come to the Fulton Industrial Area every day to go to work. Most people don't realize it's the largest industrial area east of the Mississippi River. So for it to come into our city was a huge win for our city. And so the state delegation, our former mayor, we owe them a a debt of gratitude long-term for the financial resources that brings to our community, not only in terms of jobs, but again, to make sure our economy is balanced, because a healthy city is going to have a strong residential base, commercial, and industrial base. It can't be overly saturated with any of those three. You need them all.
Dr. Rowell, I have a two-pronged question and then a follow-up after the answer to the question. We're asking you questions today, but what would you say is the greatest need in the city of South Fulton today, and in District 5 especially?
Well, I can't speak specifically to District 5, but I can speak to District 1.
I'm sorry.
I think citywide branding, and I think people have to engage and stay consistently engaged. I'm not saying around one issue, because you won't get the full picture. You know, any given council meeting, we're voting on at least 50 items. So just to give you an idea, those packets are about 300 or 400 pages long that we have to read to get ready for that meeting. And so, you know, people tend to harp on one issue, and they don't understand. We're looking at it, everything from a much more holistic standpoint as we try to move the city forward. I think branding continues to be an area that we're working on. And I think I don't want to get in leadership too much, because I think that's the role of the voters to decide about their leaders. But there likely needs to be some shifts in leadership. I'll say it.
Okay, thank you. That's good. Bishop?
Dr. Rowell, there's a stigma with the council. Not sure if it's true or not, but the stigma among many constituents is that each of you run your districts like a separate city, and that none of you are actually concerned about the city at large. Can you expound on that, or what is the collaboration with the
I don't
council
think that's
people?
accurate at all.
I just want to
I'll just say that.
bring that up, because it's a big stigma, and you know. So, how do you guys collaborate, or what is that process like, making sure that what's going on in District 1 does not contradict what's going on in District 5, and it's working together for the whole?
What I would say is each district is unique. I also say their leadership is probably a reflection of that district. I think the key thing is, you know, and you hear different requests from different areas. I know, perfect example, one of the things I've been working on, and it's not even directly related to the city, is I had a group of residents who were interested in bringing sewer to their area. Of course, that's covered by Fulton County, but that also requires collaboration with our commissioners, with other leaders beyond the city, as it relates to, you know, us operating differently. I would say this: if you look at most votes of the council, most of them are unanimous. I don't think people have really paid attention. Most of the time, we vote in sync. Sometimes it veers off, and that's usually if people feel like, well, it becomes sometimes questions about equity. A perfect example, we had at our recent council meeting, some questions about additional funding for special events. Previously, our practice had been your district budget covers all your events. And so when allocations were made beyond that, people had questions about that. But generally speaking, if you go back and all our voting records are on the website, you will see most of the time we vote together. So I'll say that.
Pastor Chavis?
You mentioned earlier about businesses coming to the city. Have you thought about a plan for this next term on how you could build economic vitality with the businesses? And also, as touched on earlier, in that plan, what are some measurements maybe you have thought of that would build the culture and character of some of our neighborhoods?
Well, I would first say that we have staff that are dedicated to doing economic development in the city. when we first started, one of the things I began to do and have pretty much consistently done since being in office is I've held economic development and housing tours, and it has proven to be very beneficial. In fact, I have had significant commercial development in District 1. I remember specifically our first tours, two of the most blighted properties, really three of the most blighted properties in my area have been acquired and are now being redeveloped. One of them already is complete, and that's Dough in a Box. Originally, that property on Fulton Industrial was vacant for years, and now it's owned by a small business. That's great. In addition, at Cascade and 285, we had a parcel that was vacant for years alongside Bank of America. It's about to become a Quick Trip, and the older gas stations are going to be demolished across the street, which is the city of Atlanta, which is why I said it's very important to work with the leaders in your neighboring jurisdiction. And all these grocery stores going there. So, and that design studio, I have it's grown over time, and now Raw Design will have its own building, which is currently under construction. And so that's the kind of coordination that I talk about with neighboring municipalities to make sure that we have and are developing compatible uses, especially on our borders. As it relates to Fulton Industrial, it's had tremendous growth. That was an area I've had to learn more about over the last year. I continue to learn about it, but there's actually quite a bit of new construction going on Fulton Industrial that people may not be aware of, and some of the older facilities people are going on and repurposing, which is important. I think in Atlanta and other places, some of those spaces are used for all kind of movie filming and the like, and we have that occurring in our very own city. And we also have a movie studio that's going to be constructed off Camp Creek Parkway, right going towards Fulton Industrial. So we have a lot of great projects coming online. I'm looking forward to the RFP that the Development Authority of Fulton County will put out, where they're looking for a master developer to address those blighted properties on Fulton Industrial, and that should come out before the end of the year. So my personal belief, in about 3 or 4 years, Fulton Industrial will not look the same. It just won't.
Pastor Flynn.
Continuing on the line of businesses, I know that in many areas in the city of South Fulton, there are a lot of industrial places. And so we hear the term live, eat, work, play. How is that being addressed? In my mind, as I'm thinking about, and we talked about Fulton Industrial, but as I ride further down, it becomes, I think, Cascade Palmetto, or I may be saying the road wrong, but in areas like that where, and again, I don't know if the community is asking for that, but how do we see more businesses such as restaurants and things for the neighborhood to actually enjoy, as opposed to more of the big box retailers that are building distribution centers in the area?
Well, one, I want to address the fact that the city of South Fulton has designated areas for industrial, Fulton Industrial, Oakley Industrial. Some of the other areas that people equate with our city are not in our city limits. A lot of people talk about South Fulton Parkway. That is Union City, and if you drive down South Fulton Parkway, it says that. So I think being clear about the boundaries. So when you look at our map and you say that's the weirdest map you've ever seen and it's a zigzag, that area was annexed prior to our incorporation. So I just like, to clear up any misinformation about that. So while we support industrial, we want it in the right places. We also don't want it abutted to residential areas. And our track record shows that based on our votes, and I'm talking about the entire body. In addition, I think a key thing that residents need to be aware of, and they can go look at this on our website. In 2019, when we had developed our economic strategic plan, we identified 9 areas that we want to do these live, work, play nodes. And so I think 5 of them are already in various phases. Mine is probably the furthest along, Sandtown Crossing. For those who have been in District 1 for a very long time, they know we just had pretty much CVS and our neighborhood favorite Sandtown Pub. But once we were able to get Publix in the area, you can see the growth exploded right there. One of the things I have done since being in office, I got my certification in economic development to understand the language and the things that developers look at when they're coming into a community. And density is one of them. You know, you can't go anywhere where you have nice sit-down restaurants, which people ask us for all the time, and you don't have density. So we talk about Camp Creek Marketplace, which is a success for both the city of Atlanta and city of East Point, because that's their area. They have a lot of residential development behind it because they need the foot traffic to sustain those sit-down restaurants, and they're some of the top grossing chains for those various businesses. So while we may not want to make our nodes as large as those, we have to embrace density. So one of the projects that came online was Story Riverside, which is new to District 1, but we're working now on trying to attract some additional sit-down. But I'm also very proud that we have small businesses that are also thriving there. So, you know, we have an Allstate that's locally owned. We have a spa and a wax studio that's owned by residents of the city. Gaucher's Tapas Restaurant, that's her second restaurant in District 1. When originally it was another business slated to go in our end cap, and the pandemic had and changes, you know, they weren't able to move forward. I actually went to her and asked her would she consider, and she said yes. So, and that's about having relationships with the small businesses in your area. It's not very common that you'd have one business owner with two in one district, but we had formed that kind of relationship, and I enjoy that with the number of small business owners in the area, because at the end of the day, it is their land, you know, the business owner's land. And so, you know, sharing the vision and trying to help people to understand we want a diversity in the types of businesses. And I think we've done a great job. You have Arden's Gardens and Batteries Plus and Allstate Insurance. It's not your typical thing, but we also have Starbucks coming. It's under construction now to be done in September. I'm very proud of that. And while the person who helped initiate some of those conversations was a resident of District 1. So there's so much expertise in our city, and I say we have all we need in this city. We just have to bring the right parties together to make it happen. So again, I think we're moving in the right direction.
Dr. Rao, we've talked about, and you've talked about bringing a lot of businesses and all the businesses that are coming to the city of South Fulton. What are some of the things that you have for the youth that's sorely needed?
I totally agree. We have quite a bit of work to do on that, but one of the things I'm excited about is our Sandtown Rec Center is under renovation, and we hope to open it up next month. I go every 2 or 3 days to peek my head in the window to make sure we're staying on track. That facility has not had a major renovation. We had to do a new roof. We put HVAC in a gym. It never existed before. And we branded it with the colors of the Sandtown, you know, Vikings, which is, you know, a big thing. I'm very excited about that. And one of the things I did, I sponsored legislation, I think it was the end of last year or the beginning of this year, to provide incentives for businesses that provide family entertainment to be able to tap into some incentives for the city. So I look forward to our economic development staff kind of pushing that so we can attract. So you have the standard things, whether it's, you know, esports, you know, Chuck E. Cheese pizza, whatever we need, because I remember I've been in the area for 25 years. When I had to do parties for my daughter, who is now a senior at Westlake, I had to go to Fayetteville or Cobb, and I don't want the families in our city to have to do that.
Thank you. Bishop Blackie.
Yes. This question is more citywide. We've been dealing with the landfill situation for a while, and I know that's not in your district per se, but is there any game plan that you can share for resolving this crisis with this landfill that is emitting all of these toxins, and it's just a serious problem.
I can't speak about that a whole lot, although I know that it recently changed ownership. And so hopefully some cleanup of that site is on the way. I'm sure I would really defer to the council person for that area. And I guess that's why people think, but one thing I do think we generally do a good job of in our city is, I don't try to speak to too much outside of my district is pretty much keeps me fully, pretty busy. But I do know it's changed ownership recently, and I'm sure they're trying to figure out, next steps with that. I know it's been in court and some other things, so looking forward to find out what that new owner is going to do with that site.
Thank you. Pastor Chaffetz.
Yes, are there any specific initiatives that you would or have thought about that would support or enhance the community policing in order, with the transition that's gone on, that would help further build trust within the neighborhoods?
Unfortunately, I think we live in a time where, I don't know, we have a department that does some great work. You have one bad experience and people tend to harp on that and they can't even see beyond it. But I think the police department has launched a number of initiatives that are very good, to include our Park Rangers program. When we originally envisioned that program, it was designed so that our law enforcement officers would have positive interaction with our young people, and they didn't look like a regular officer, with a gun and somebody that would be intimidating. So I think that's one of the great things that we've rolled out, and other cities have inquired about it since that time. In addition, this year budgeted is for a motorcycle unit for our police officers. Again, they can get in some places that they couldn't maybe get into before. In addition, we made investments in ATVs because we used to get a lot of complaints. We go from urban to rural in our city. And literally, early on, I remember, I have to laugh about it, some of the cars were getting stuck. So we need some different kind of equipment when you hear, people were riding the ATVs along the utility lines. So we had to get some so our officers could respond to some of the challenges we had early on. So I think we've continued to innovate. And, one of the things we did early on, Georgia Tech did a study to identify, what our future police department should look like. When we first started, we only had like 80 officers for a city that's almost 100 square miles. We've continued to invest in law enforcement, and it's paid dividends because we've seen our crime decrease since our incorporation. I remember going on next door early on, and that's all they used to talk about, crime, crime, crime. We still need to work on some things, and we also have to partner with community in that area, because one of the key things is, if you see something, say something. And a lot of what we see in terms of crime in our areas is around young people or people entering cars. A lot of times they're looking for firearms. So we want to continue to encourage residents not to leave things in plain view, and to, we all have our part to do to help curb crime. So,
Pastor Flint.
I wanted to ask specifically concerning health and wellness. What would, and this may be something for, I don't know, the fire department or maybe even the police department, what is the response time? I don't know if you can answer for the entire city, but what's the response time for emergencies? And has the city looked into any other health providers or health care facilities? Because as we think about the metro area, so many hospitals have closed down, and I don't know what the distance is from one area, from District 5 to maybe Grady, from District 2 to Grady. What does that look like?
I would say that for District 1, and I'll just speak for my own personal self, you know, I did Wellstar, either in Douglas or Cobb. We're the northern side. I didn't necessarily go downtown, so. And I've heard about other parts of our city, they may go to Fayetteville, depending on where they are. Now, that issue with hospitals is bigger than any one city, and it's something that needs to be looked at the state level, and they need to get it figured out soon. I couldn't help but compare. I was recently visiting a family in Cleveland, and my mother lives in a city that's about 19 or 20,000 people. It was medical facilities everywhere, literally, and a hospital. And so, and I will say Cleveland Clinic is known globally, but I just couldn't fathom that a city of her size, which is significantly smaller than the one I represent, that they had so many options in healthcare, assisted living, senior facilities. I mean, they were just plentiful. And so the state needs to figure that out. But I will tell you, we have had some success in this area. So we have the Healing Community Center, which opened up in the Promenade Office Park, right near Fairburn and Cascade Road. So that's a federally qualified health clinic that has a wide variety of health providers in that building. In addition, Grady has recently opened a Grady Outpatient Center in the Kroger Plaza, right inside the perimeter at Cascade and I-285. And so those are two new providers in the area in District 1, and working really hard to try to attract an urgent care in the area. So until they figure this hospital thing out, I think what we need to focus on is making sure that our residents have access to quality health care. Because ultimately, you don't want to be in a hospital. You want to make sure you have access to providers. And so we also have a number of providers from podiatrists on the like at Sandtown Center. I know that many of the providers in the office condos there are actually medical providers. And so if you don't have one or you need to research that further, please look there and many of them live in our community. So they are vested in a different kind of way. So, yeah, please take advantage.
Well, we want to thank you, Dr. Rao, for coming out today and for answering all of our questions. We're going to turn it back over to our host, Ms. Danita Chapman.
Thank you, Pastor Foster. I want to thank District 1 for coming. I just got a text that the next person that was supposed to be in is running a little bit behind. So I understand that the traffic is bad, and so we're going to be waiting on them. Again, let me say, because some people did not hear me at the first, so what I'm going to say, I want to thank the man of this house, Pastor Foster, for allowing this to take place. I had an opportunity to meet him this Saturday, talked to him last year, but this was the first time that we met face-to-face was this Saturday, and I want to thank him publicly because he made this thing possible. Next, I want to thank Pastor Joe Flint for coming. Pastor Flint and I work on another radio show, and I often tell he works for the local funeral home, and so and he's a preacher, so he know how to do it. I want to say Pastor Christina Chavis, I met her years ago when we were fighting for cityhood, and she was the chaplain over the People's Campaign. And so I want to thank her for coming and playing a part in this. And then the last one is Bishop Lackey. I want to thank Bishop Lackey for taking the call for this. And this thing is about getting it right for the city of South Fulton. I've said openly and I'll say it again, I'm not endorsing anyone. Yes, I have friends on the council, and they will tell you how I do things, decent and in order. We have to get it right in the city of South Fulton, interviewers, because we're a city that sits up on the hill, and we should have things right. So this is giving all the elected officials and the ones that's running an opportunity for them to be interviewed by these pastors. Someone asked, Demita, did you give them questions? No, I did not. I believe that the pastors, they know what they want to ask, and so we're giving everybody the opportunity. Today was for, and I'm going to say that today is for District 1 and 5. We had one young man that's out of state right now, and he wanted to do a Zoom, and I talked to the pastor, and Zoom did not work. Maybe later we can do something, but we wanted to keep the format. Again, we have, I think is it 9 people running on for the City South Fulton Council, and so we want to hear from them. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm on social media. I get the emails, I get your texts, but we are here to hear from the candidates and to see what they have. And so again, I'm going to turn it over to the man of this house. I want to thank the ones, and so the next person, we got 2 more people, and they should be here. And so we'll turn it back over to the man of the house.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you once again for coming, Dr. Rowell. And we're streaming live, so we just continue to stream live until the next person gets here.
And if you have any more questions, I'm available. I can talk all day about the city.
Let me ask Bishop Lackey. You're from, I didn't know you lived in the city until you told me that you lived in our city. And so, you being a pastor, where do you see the city of South Fulton in the next 10 years? Where do you see us at in the next 10 years?
Well, the city of South Fulton has so much potential. I see this city really becoming the model for a lot of communities that are wanting a startup city. And I think a lot of times the criticism, although much of the criticism may be deserved at times, but I think we still have to keep things in its proper perspective. This city is only 6 years old. And so you have people that were elected into offices that had never held offices many times. And so the city is still rolling. It's still going. We've had growing pains, but by and large, I think we're moving along. And I just see this city getting better and better and better, the government becoming more and more efficient. And I think over these next 10 years, this city will be the model for any community that's trying to become a startup. I do.
And I like that. I use the phrase that when we started out, we was on breast milk, and we went on to Similac, and right now we're trying to get to 2%. But we go, I try to do it in my terms. If can't nobody do it like me, I'm gonna break it down. Everybody can understand. Let me ask Pastor Foster, because when we talked about having these forums, I know I got a question. Why are you having it over there? That's not in the city. And so I had never been out here. I pass through here when I go to Fayetteville to Piedmont. And when I come down, I was like, wow, I didn't know this was back here. So you've been here for how long, Pastor Foster?
We've been here for about 16 years.
16 years.
Yes.
Tell us a little something about this over here, because, see, I didn't know it was here.
So this is the historic Fife community. A lot of people have never heard of Fife community.
I didn't know about
It is the historic Fife community, and as you oftentimes will hear the train going by, it was a major train depot. The train would stop not very far from here, and it was a flourishing community. And of course, everything always changes. And when the Lord led us back here, I did have questions. why lead us back here to this dead-end street? But as we look at all the development that's going on, and we have something that a lot of my colleagues wish they had, and that's land. Because, as you know, they're not making any more land. And so we are blessed to be back here and to serve the community. Our purpose statement is we are a church of the community, for the community. And this is why we're putting on this forum, because a lot of people are unaware that we're here. But we want to make sure that everybody knows that we're here and that we are in the community. And our church actually is located in the city of South Fulton.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I used to come down this way to go to my doctor's out there, and that train, when I come across the track, it reminds me of home. Because through my hometown, you're going to be caught by a train, but now they build that overpass. And sometimes the train would just sit there. I was caught 2 weeks right there on that train track, and I was like, wow. And then for you to have a church there by that train track, folks live by that train track, so now they're used to that train track.
Right.
Let me ask Pastor Chavis, because I know you were part of fighting for cityhood, and you went out to the Stockbridge area. Tell me, when you were fighting for cityhood, what was your vision of the city?
Given the genesis of the fight and the resurrection of the fight, it's hard to kill something that's been resurrected.
Let me say that.
And so I stand in agreement with Bishop. Great potential is here. The land mass is great. The undeveloped portions is great. Great potential. And so the only thing we need is the human capital to get on one accord, to have the vision, to execute, to utilize what was fought for. So in my estimation, even today through the transition, as Bishop said, it's still young, it's still a baby. As you mentioned, it's still on milk, but that's not a bad thing. It's a progression and progressive thing.
Absolutely. And Pastor Chavis said something that I try to give a little history, because some people don't know, and we had a lot of newcomers come. But when you talk about the resurrection of the city, when we were fighting cityhood, the bill died under the Gold Dome. And the last night of that Tuesday night, I guess about 9-something, that morning they called the bill back to the floor. And when we got down to the Capitol, and I think it was some of the council people that was there, they called that bill back to the floor, Pastor Foster. And when they called it back, we had to call it the Lazarus bill, because it died, but it came back alive. And I remember sitting under the Capitol. I ain't gonna preach to y'all, but I remember sitting under the Capitol. And it was this guy sitting next to me, and he said, "You look discouraged." And I said, "I am." And he asked me why. And I told him, because we here again, and if they kill this bill again, we gonna be annexed probably into another city. And I didn't move out in the country to be in the big city. And so it got to be a lot of moving parts down at the Capitol. And I'm going to call her name out, and I don't think she mind me calling her name out. It was a lady that was over by a door, and Catherine was probably there. And I said, "Who is that black lady over there? She's doing too much running around." And she was going from a door to a door. And sometime, and this is a nonpartisan race, but see, sometime we tend to get things kind of confused. We got to work with everybody if we want it to work. And so that lady was Camilla Moore. She was running over there to the Republicans trying to get the bill to moving. And probably about 10:30, things got real heated down there. And I said, well, it's getting almost closing time. And I guess about a strike 30 minutes later, the bill came up for a vote. And when that vote passed, Bishop Lackey, you talking about joy under the gold dome. Because we had done something that they said we couldn't do. And we done it. And I have to give a shout out to Representative Roger Bruce, Senator Donzella, and all the rest that helped make this thing happen. And so when I talk about our city, sometimes I get a little passionate because, see, I know how far we come, Bishop Lackey. I know how far we come, Pastor Foster. And I know we got some growing pains. But I believe, you know, what y'all preachers say, whatever happened in the house stays in the house. If y'all arguing in the house, I ain't got to know you're arguing in the house, Bishop, unless you put it out there for me to know. So what I tell anybody that's going to get elected or the ones that's going to come back, we all going to disagree. But when you disagree, Bishop, you still got to be on one accord. And we come on back to the table and do what we do. So the city of South Fulton, I'm going to tell you, it's great. The city of South Fulton and out in where I live, we the only one got the land. It's no more land. So everybody trying to get out to city of South Fulton. Everybody trying to get out here. And when you can go from one state to another state and they talk about the city of South Fulton, that says something. Now, they might say we're a little crazy down here. They say that. But we also got some great things in the city of South Fulton. Pastor Joe Flint, he the one that keep it real. And me and him be going head to head on that radio show. Bishop Flint, let me ask you, you think we're going to get us a funeral home out here? We need us a funeral home, don't y'all think?
Well, we do have one. Murray Brothers is in the city of South Fulton. So
straighten me out there.
But, yeah.
We gonna
Remember what I said, everything we have is in the city limits of South Fulton.
We're going to get you a new one out there. No.
I thought, you know, Bishop and Reverend Pastor Foster, don't y'all think we need some crematory that look like us, you know, because everybody not can't afford them open and close under the grave. What you think, Bishop?
Well, I think we need everything that's available, and I'm just waiting on somebody from the city of South Fulton to give me a big land donation so I can build a new cathedral.
Well, all right. Look, he talking about building a big old church. Pastor Chavis, you out there in the city of Stockbridge, correct?
Yes.
And I know y'all got this big old amphitheater out there that just came up. Let's talk about that.
Yes.
How did y'all do that? If you know a little bit about it, how did y'all do that thing out there?
Well, it had been on the horizon for several years, and then Ms. Moore actually was the person who relaunched and initiated that push. And so once we got the developers and got everyone on board, it was built well within the scope of time that it was anticipated. With the weather changes, so fortunately we were able to get the bulk of it up before the pandemic.
Okay. You hear that, Councilwoman Ryle? She said she called her Miss Moore. I call her Camilla Moore because that's my mother under this cityhood movement.
I heard what she said. I'm saying I talk to people all across the state. That's one thing. We have the Georgia Municipal Association. We get to fellowship with cities all around the state to hear best practices. That's what the training is there for.
Okay.
You get to hear, you learn best practices. I've even told her I've actually visited their facilities. I do weekend field trips to go check out stuff. So.
Oh, awesome. Let me ask a question to these pastors. Why is it, because I don't want to ask her because I might put her in the hot seat. Why is it we have a lot of trash in our city, and I'm going to go somewhere with that. I went down, I often travel down to Talladega, to my husband's hometown, and it's country down there. It's dirt roads down there. But when I go down there, when I say I don't see a piece of paper on the street, we sometimes travel, pastors, doing the trash collections. And them folks be out there pulling them trash cans in. I had an opportunity to go to a country town this weekend to a pastor's anniversary in Whitesburg, Georgia. I didn't know where I was at, but even down there, I didn't see no paper on the street. I'm trying to figure out how can we help our folks here, because if I can drive all the way down in them dirt roads and country roads and don't see no paper, I can go to South Carolina, don't see no paper, but when I come to my city, I see folks, they can come in, and I want to say thanks to the city of South Fulton, because they can clean those streets up on a Friday, and if I do go to work on a Saturday, it look like a pig pen. So I believe, pastors, that we got to be held accountable also. Do you agree with me? Come on, Bishop. You finna say something. Come on.
You say the pastors need to be held accountable for trash?
I say we, the residents.
Oh. I'm trying to see where you're going with this.
We as residents, don't we always want to
It's the residents. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not sure what part of the city you're in. Thankfully, the part of the city that I live in does not reflect that, but I'm sure different districts reflect different things. But I think it's all about empowering our people. It's all about home ownership. It's all about, it's a known fact, no slight to anyone, but in communities where there is a high percentage of home ownership and the owners are living in those homes, it's going to be better kept than communities where there is a higher percentage of renters. And so I just think it's all about empowering our people. And I don't know if we're going to have another opportunity to ask her something, but I wanted to just ask something about even property values, if possible.
Oh, absolutely, because we got a little time. So
okay, but what I wanted to find out is I was up in Alpharetta and some of these areas not too long ago, and many of the homes there, I mean, they're gorgeous, some of them, but we have communities down here that are just as nice. And I know this is not a council issue per se, but what are you guys doing, or is there a strategy? Because there's something wrong when you go to Sandy Springs and you see a home that looks it's the same builder, the same developer, it's the same company, and that home in Sandy Springs or Alpharetta is valued $300,000-$400,000 more than the same home.
Now, Bishop, you want us to take on systematic racism?
Yes, I want to hear a little bit about that here in the city of South Fulton.
I mean, you've hit it on. I mean, it's absolutely true.
It's just crazy.
It is. We have absolutely beautiful homes in South Fulton. And one of the things I love about it most, you can really go from city to country living. And I just really appreciate it. Sometimes I just get in my car and I just ride and I just take it all in. Again, that's bigger than me, just like about that hospital issue. But all of that needs to be looked at. Just like when we talk about the hospitals, how can the areas that are growing actually have a hospital closed? It makes no sense. I won't profess to have all the answers to all those problems, but they bear a lot of discussion with a lot of leaders at the municipal, state, federal level. We need to figure it out.
I'm going to ask Pastor Foster this. What do you think about all the investors that is buying up the properties and selling them? They're not selling them right now, but what they're doing is they're putting folks in the house that might need 3 or 4 people to make that note, and basically turning our subdivision, some homes almost $1 million, into where we have issues. What do you think about that? I want to hear from all of you guys. What do y'all think about that?
Well, one of the things that we need to make sure of, and this is kind of along the line of what Bishop was saying a few minutes ago, is that we have home ownership and that we make it so that people can purchase a home. And to get away from redlining and systematic racism that's going on, and to stop these major investors, as you mentioned, from purchasing homes and doing, because for them it's just a buck. They're buying the homes and flipping them over. They may buy it for $200, $300 and try to sell it for $500. For them, it's just a matter of trying to make money. But we need to make it so that it's affordable, and that comes with educating our people on how to purchase a home.
And also, you know, from leadership level, we have to do a better job at vetting our opportunities. And when we become desperate to have usage, then we will accept anything. And so on the front end, if we vetted the developers and really had a clear outlook on the future, we won't be desperate for when they come and give us an offer that we can't turn back. Because when they leave, like you said, Pastor, they leave homes that are vacant and they just want to flip. But then the equity has already gone. It's like buying a new car.
Can I respond? I think one of the challenges we have, and we've seen that in some of the residential areas, the current property owners, they get to choose what offers they take. That has very little to do with the leadership. You get 4 or 5 offers. I've seen it, and they'll sell it to a institution because they'll say this is a cash offer, even though they'll close in 30 days, even if they sold it to a family. So, you know, I think educating our HOAs and the owners, when you do decide you want to leave, sell to a family. South Fulton has one of the highest home ownership rates in the metropolitan area, period.
Wow.
If you want to check the facts, go to U.S. Census Bureau and look at our profiles. Our numbers are so strong. But again, when they're selling those houses, you don't have to sell to an investment company. You can sell to a family. And, you know, what's the difference between $2,000 or $3,000? That's what people are buying for. That's why they're selling them. And that's so small. But again, it takes away from what we've been trying to build, which is a strong place to raise a family, you know, to play, to worship, to do all those things, to keep our high home ownership rates. We need you to sell to families. So.
If I can jump in here with this, and I want to make sure I understood what you were asking about the homes, and then, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that sometimes, you know, the homeowner will now be maybe renting out the rooms or stuff like that in the community. Were you going that route?
Well, what happened is, what I've noticed, investors is coming in,
Right.
buying these homes up, and they know that Sally cannot afford this $3,000 mortgage, because right now I'm going to use my community.
Right.
We have homes that's being rented out in our community by investors, and they're renting them homes out, some of them over $3,000 a month.
Right.
So when you know I can't afford that $3,000 a month, so what you typically have is maybe 3 or 4 people
Right.
living in the home. They're renting homes out.
Yes.
So how can we hold these investors accountable?
So that kind of goes back to what Dr. Roll was saying about encouraging them to sell to families. But then the bigger picture, we were just chatting here, is the affordable housing, which, and I'm not saying that this is right for them to do what they're doing, but we're finding more people living, if you will, in co-ops. Because here in the metro area now, I think Atlanta has passed, or the Atlanta area anyway, has passed the, I can't think of the phrase, but the income to living ratio. And so although it's not conducive to communities and homeowners, but the bigger issue is the affordable housing. And so, of course, yes, there are investors buying the homes and renting it, to 3 to 4 people at a time. But the investors are only doing what they can to make money. We have to go back to the problem of affordable housing in the area.
And also, you look back 10 years ago, the cost to get in a house is dramatically different. I mean, I'm hearing people that they have to do $20,000, $30,000 to get in a house. So it's a totally different game. And so when we talk about affordability, if you're spending more than 30% of your income on housing, you're upside down, and that's most people now. I mean, thank God that I'm done with that, But a lot of people, this is a real challenge about affordability. We got some of our first affordable senior housing in our area. I remember having, and this is since the inception of our city, I had a conversation that was, facilitated through a guide that ARC did about housing affordability. And there were people from my community saying that we didn't need affordable housing, and it kind of blew my mind, actually. But I think they didn't understand, right? So what we're not talking about just traditional, and I think in their minds they had the stigmas associated with traditional public housing, but no individual should have to spend more than 30%, because you got other stuff. You got health, you got food, and if you're beyond that, you're facing housing insecurities because people are struggling. Some people are paying using 50 and 60% of their income to stay sheltered, and so that's not acceptable. We have to figure out solutions, and we have to understand, even have a healthy community, we have to have, when we talk about the service jobs, those new jobs, the reality is those jobs don't require a college education for people to be there, but they need to be able to live in the community that they're working in. And so those are some of the tougher conversations we have to have that people they're not always comfortable but having, but we have to have all price points in our city.
Well, before we close, because we're waiting, so what we're going to do, I know these interviewers, they want to eat, unless some of them came from work and they want to eat. And so, but let me ask Bishop Lackey, because when I did my research on him, I think he works with the fire department. Let's talk about the insurance of a city. How do we keep, because I hear people sometimes saying, our insurance going up because of this and that. Tell me how that work under the fire.
Well, let me give full disclosure. I don't work with the fire department. Okay. I'm a chaplain.
You're a chaplain.
For public safety. I'm a chaplain for fire and police.
Thank you.
But insurance rates, they are directly tied, as it relates to your home, to the proximity of police precincts as well as a fire station being to your house. Because the closer or the quicker the response time in an emergency can take place, the cheaper your policy will be. And so that's just always a good thing to live close to a fire station because it helps, and then if you really need them, you just hope they're not on another call.
Right. Thank you for that. I'm going to turn it over back to Pastor Foster. I want to thank everyone. We're going to be tuning back in. We're just waiting on the next 2 guests. One is from District 5 and one of them is from District 1. I want to thank you guys for participating. Thank you, Councilwoman Rao. But again, I want to thank the man of this house. Again, This is the Citizens for Excellence in Elected Leaders. We just here to just get the information out. And once you get the information, you know, you can kind of go from there. But we're going to always try to get the proper and correct information out. And we don't get it right all the time. And so anybody that knows me know that I am a I shoot straight from the hip. And sometimes I have to come back and say, oh, maybe I shouldn't have did it that way. But my intentions is always to look out for the good of our city. So I'm going to turn it over back to Pastor Foster. And thank you, Councilwoman Rao, for coming.
Well, we're going to take a short break until the other people get here so that we can interview them. But I want to give Dr. Rowley an opportunity for a last closing statement. Thank you again so much for coming with us this afternoon.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just want to tell the voters of District 1, from day one, I've been consistent. The work speaks for itself. We've had significant growth in District 1. I think we've been able to repave over 14 subdivisions. We have to the tune of about 16 new businesses in a relatively small area. We've consistently held town hall meetings on a quarterly basis so you can weigh in and I can hear your concerns. And I consistently attend HOA meetings to stay close to the residents and what their most pressing issues are. So I'm looking forward to your support and vote. And I look forward to serving another 4 years. So I can do that if you take advantage of the opportunity to vote. And I want to encourage you to early vote. And I'll just wrap it up with that.
Thank you again so much. Those of you who are online and streaming live, we'll take a break. And when the other candidates come, we'll come back with you.
Pastor Flint, Pastor Taylor, just you guys step us in the back.
1 2 1 2 1 2 yeah.
Tutu, 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 tutu. Do 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 testing 1 2 do 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 testing 1 2 do 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 testing 1 2 do do testing 1 2 do do testing 1 2 do testing 1 2 to do. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2 2 2 2 2 2 2. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do do.
testimony. this song to my mother. I love you, Mommy. And to God, thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity to do what I do. Here we go.
Sunshine, sunshine, chasing all the rain away, leaving rainbows in my life. You know you are sunshine, sunshine, erasing all the cloudy days, leaving rainbows in my life. You know you are what I'm feeling. I'm ever so grateful. I appreciate just how much you have given from all of your time each and every day. See, you're the best, just amazing, and everything I have is because of you. So I take this time just to thank you, Lord, for everything that you do, because you're mine. Chasing all the rain away, leaving rainbows in my life. You know you are sunshine, erasing all the cloudy days, leaving rainbows in my life. You know you are that you left me. Always felt your presence right by my side, protecting me from harm. Yes, you kept me, giving me the strength I need to carry on. Your blessed name, it's uplifting, and the only life you had for me, you gave. Exalted one, oh Lord, you love me. In spite of everything, me, you still forgave. And now I lift my voice to you in praise, and I just want to thank you for shining down your light on me always. And I just want to thank you. And now I lift my voice to you in praise, and I just want to thank you. 'Cause with your love I know that I will never be afraid. Chasing all the rain away, leaving rainbows in my life. I'll never be sunshine. I'll never be erasing all the cloudy days, leaving rainbows in my life. I'll never be sunshine. I'll never be chasing all the rain away, leaving rainbows in my life. You're
I just would like to take a moment to thank my family. Mommy, I love you. My brothers, Ernest, Jeffrey, Adonis, Joshua, my sister Sakia, my father, and everyone musically. Tyrone, Micaiah, Nate, Eric, Kevin, Bob, Joy, Larry and the crew, Jim, Chris B, Corey, Junie, Lucy, Charlie, Zion, Lenny, Denise, Matt. God bless you.
Man, I done did it again. I just keep sinning. I don't know what it is. I don't even know if the Lord will hear my prayers anymore. I haven't prayed in so long. I know he tired of hearing the same old thing, but
telling me to come and talk to me. Oh, Lord, I really want to. How can I talk to you? I just wanna know how. There's so much in that song. Yes, it is. I wanna walk with you. Hey, but I keep saying it over and over again. I keep hearing your still small voice say, come and talk to me. Come on, Lord, I really want to. How can I talk to you? Hey, there's so much in that song. I wanna walk with you. Yes, I do. But I keep saying it over and over again. I won't say it's the devil, no, 'cause I'm to blame. And when I'm in your presence, I feel so ashamed. But you just keep forgiving me over and over again. Ooh, I just can't stand it. The conviction's killing me. I've tried other places, now I'm down on bended knee. Your word is like a shining star that shows me the way. Your spirit is in my heart, and I know you're here to stay. You always guide me back like a sheep that went astray. That's why I'm here today. And even when I'm wrong, you always say, come and talk to me. Lord, I really want to. How can I talk to you when there's so much sin that's on me? I wanna walk with you, but I keep saying it over and over again. I wanna know you, Jesus. Come and talk to me. Come on, talk. Lord, I really want to. How can I talk to you? I wanna know. There's so much sin that's on me. I wanna walk with you. But I keep saying it over and over again. I keep doing wrong, but I hear you say, come and talk to me. Lord, I
Well, we're going to go into the next interview because they're
Hang on 1 second, let me make sure. Are we good?
ready. We're going to go into the next interview. I want to thank everybody that was watching and being patient with us. Mrs. Dingo just came in. She's running for District 1. Before we go into that, I want to go back and introduce the pastor of this house, Pastor Foster, Bishop Lackey, Pastor Flint, and Pastor Chavis. My name is Demita Chapman. I am with Citizens for Excellence in Elected Leaders. And my goal is I'm not here to endorse anyone, Mrs. Dingle. My job here is to get the information out to the community make their decision on who they want to represent them. So I'm going to turn it over now to Pastor Foster.
Thank you so much. We had an opening prayer earlier, so we'll let that prayer suffice for the rest of the meeting. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's a pleasure meeting you, and we look forward to working with you and hearing some of your answers. We're going to just have a round table of questions for you. We'll start with Bishop Lackey.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's great to meet you. My question simply is, why do you want to be a city council person?
The purpose of me running for city council is so that I can make a difference in the community. I've always been involved with the community for many years, and it started in my early 20s. And so I just want to do it on a bigger platform so that I can be the voice for those that do not have a voice. So that's my one main reason for running for city council.
Thank you. Pastor Chavis.
Good evening, and thank you again for being with us. You have a lot of experience with children and youth. What do you envision doing for the city of South Fulton in that capacity?
What I would love to do is work with the Parks and Rec director, and I want to start implementing mentorship programs within the Parks and Recs division. And that way we can have resources as well for parents, for those that just don't know. I work with several mentorship programs around the city of Atlanta and the city of South Fulton. So I do have friends that go into the school districts, and they have partnered with them, and so they know what these children need and what their wants are. So I do want to partner with Parks and Rec so that we can get some of those mentorships programs into those youth centers so that they can better navigate with helping the youth within today's society.
When you say programs, what type of programs are you talking about?
For instance, there's one program that I've been working with the mentorship program called Wifey Me. And what they do is they mentor young girls to teach them life lessons and help them get prepared for life after high school and life in college. There's a young man that I work with named Dr. Travis Barber. He has one more question. He's actually partnered with Fulton County Schools, Atlanta Public Schools, and he goes into the schools and work with the young men. So he has a front hand of what's going on within the school system and what's going on within the community as far as that goes. So I would love to partner with them to get them into the Parks and Recs.
Pastor Flint.
Good evening, and again, thank you for joining us.
You're
I have
welcome.
a question. So, of course, in reading over your qualifications, I absolutely love your involvement in the community and with the children. But I have to wonder, how do you think this transposes over into actually serving the community on a city council level and not in a school board level?
I believe that it'll serve in the city council level because I can bring new ideas. Right now, I do not believe that the city council works directly with the school board. So I want to bring that to the table as well so that we can all be on one accord within the city of South Fulton, not just within my district.
We're live, and the good thing about being live is that we can just kind of do whatever we want to do. So,
Thank you. I
sure.
appreciate it.
I want to give you some water. I have a question for you as it relates to You're wanting to be a city council member of District 1. What do you see is the biggest need for District 1?
I feel the biggest need in District 1 right now is communication. I feel as though a lot of them are misinformed with a lot of information. I feel like District 1 needs someone that is going to be accountable for their lack of. And listening to some of the residents so far, just give you an example, the sanitation issue. That was a big issue, and they felt like there was not enough communication done to the elderly community because they was just not properly informed the correct way. So I do think communication is one of the biggest issues. I do think right now within the city council as a whole, even in District 1, is a trust issue. So I am very trustworthy. My rap sheet with everyone has been that. So I will bring that to the community so that they know that whatever information I give them is going to be the correct information. It's not going to be something off the top of my head just to appease them at that moment.
Given what happened with the sanitation issue, what would you have done differently?
I think a flyer should have been sent out way in advance, longer before it did. I think that meetings should have been had. I think that the council and I think everyone should have listened to the residents and their concerns about the cost of the sanitation rise and how that was going to affect people, and try to come up with a solution that would be a situation where everybody can understand it and everybody can agree on it.
Okay, thank you. Bishop Lackey.
I want to go back to something you were saying a few moments ago about you would want the council to work. I guess I want to get clarity on the council working with the school board. What do you mean by that?
Well, I feel if the council worked directly with the school board on some things, I know that there's a lot of issues with the youth. So if they worked with the school board, then they can figure out what the problem is, where it's coming from, and what they can do to help it. I've noticed that a lot of the crime that's in the city of South Fulton is coming from a lot of the teenagers, and a lot of the teenagers are in the school districts within the city of South Fulton. So I feel if that they can work together as a unit, then we can probably get some of that crime down within the city, and they will have to work with Chief Meadows as well. But I just feel like if the city of South Fulton Council and the school board work together as a whole, we can try to counsel some of those issues they have with the youth.
I guess, okay, are you talking about working with the board member that represents your area, or are you talking about the whole board?
Working with the board, working with the board that's in my area. Working with the board member that's in my area so that we can sit down and see what's going on, because they have firsthand direct knowledge of what's going on in the school systems. And a lot of the residents, their concern is the crime rate within the city of South Fulton. Granted, the District 1 crime rate is not as bad as others, but I would still want to work with all the districts as a whole so that we can get a better hold on the crime rate. That's one of the things that I really want to work on, is crime within the city of South Fulton. And that is happening with a lot of our youth.
Pastor Shapers?
Yes, so you spoke a lot about collaboration and working across the board with other council members. Have you thought through what some of those initiatives would be to foster unity and kind of bridge maybe some of the divides that exist now?
Yes, I feel like a lot of that would have to come with the community leaders as well, speaking with the people that really have a voice within the community, and just sit down and talk to them and be like, hey, what is going on? What do you see the vision for the city? Take that back to the council and say, hey, look, this is what's going on, and what can we do to make it better? I do feel like everything is all about communication and effective communication so that we all can work together as a team to get the job done.
Thank you. Pastor Flint?
Thank you again. So I wanted to inquire, I see as well that you spent some time with the seniors in the South Fulton community. In your conversations, I believe it was coffee and conversations with them, what would you say are the pressing needs of the seniors, or what have they shared with you are the pressing needs for them in the city of South Fulton, or specifically District 1?
A lot of concerns that I've heard is one community is the senior citizen community. There's a cop car, South Fulton police car that just sits there in their area, in their apartment complex, and nobody's in the car. They're still having break-ins, they're still having issues and people breaking into their homes. That's one of the biggest issues that they're having right now. And another issue that like everybody knows that they're having is the sanitation issue. So that would be something that I would really want to work closely with the seniors to figure out where we can go and where we can bridge this gap to make it better for them.
Mind if I ask a follow-up?
Sure, go right ahead.
I wanted to inquire at this point, in knowing where you are and what you've done, by all means, kudos to your work with the community, with the children, and so on and so forth. What made you decide now was the time for you to run for city council? And my memory isn't serving me right. I don't know if anybody's already asked this question.
They have not.
Okay. So what made you make the decision now, transitioning from dealing with the youth to city council? What was the aha moment that said, okay, now I need to go this route?
The aha moment was when my last child graduated from high school. And I realized that I started volunteering. I was already volunteering in the community, so I started doing more. And I was listening to the residents, and I was listening to them complain about, things that was going on within city council. So maybe 2 years ago, I started going to the meetings. And the meetings that I could not go to, I would watch them online. But now I'm pretty sure the city council knows that I'm there majority at all the meetings. So I started seeing the things that was going on and saw that there was a need for change. I saw that there was a need for transparency within city council. I saw that there was a trust that was broken within city council. And my aha moment was like, Angel, you can do it. You've been in the community for many years. You know what to do. You got the right people around you for advice and anything that you have questions on. So just go for it and see what happens.
Thank you. Your work on your resume has been really centered around the youth, and that's needed, certainly good. What would you do in terms of trying to bring economic growth to District 1?
I believe right now, District 1, the economic growth in District 1 right now has been amazing to me from what I've saw. I like the fact that we are now getting a Starbucks. I would love to be able to, I would love to be able to eat, sleep, and play where I live. I want to eventually try to get a Trader Joe's in the area, because that is something that is needed. I know for myself, I travel outside of South Fulton to go to different locations. So for economic development, I would want to work closely with the economic department to figure out what's going on within the city of South Fulton. Why are we not being able to do certain things?
Okay, thank you. Bishop?
What would be your plan to tackle the issue of affordable housing, or the need for affordable housing?
That's a great question, because that's something that I actually spoke with a friend of mine. She's a mortgage loan officer, and I have quite a few friends that are realtors. I wanted to hold classes at the rec centers and get people more informed about home buying, so that they'll know that it's not a scary thing. A lot of people are scared to be homeowners right now because of the way that the market is. And I want to actually be able to hold those classes to give them the correct knowledge that they need, because you may talk to somebody and they say, hey, this is going on, or whatever the case may be, but I want to be able for them to talk to people that work in that industry, so that they can know what's going on in the home market, so that we can get more affordable housing within the city.
I guess I like what you're saying about educating them on how to buy the home, but I'm saying from the position of a policymaker, what would be your vision for making the homes affordable so that people could actually buy them?
I guess my vision for that would be the biggest issue right now is the taxes. That's one of the biggest issues with affordable housing. With a lot of people, the way that the economy is right now is a big issue. Affordable housing, to me, I think it has a lot to do with the development. It has a lot to do with development. It has a lot to do with the construction, the people that are actually building the homes. That has a lot to do with them being able to be in affordable homes.
Pastor Shapers?
You speak a lot about communication and building bridges, if I could phrase it that way.
Yes,
ma'am. For our community, can you tell us what you've done in the past, along with your passion and your desire for better communication, with what you've done in the past regarding your skills and experience? What will align with the responsibilities of the council?
As far as communication goes, before I bring anything to anyone's attention, I like to do my research first, because I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about before I bring it to my colleagues. And that goes with the job that I do now. I make sure that I research everything and say, hey, let's do this, what you think about this, or whatever the case may be. But I just want to be able to research everything that I do before I bring it to anybody's attention, so that if they have questions, I can refer back and say, hey, look at this, and this is where I got this from, or have pamphlets for them or printouts for them to read, so they'll know that I didn't just pull this out of a hat. It's something that I've actually researched and I'm passionate about.
Pastor Flint?
When we talk about economic development in the city as a whole, but in District 1, I heard you mention something about a Trader Joe's, but where do you see the biggest need for economic development? Is there an area in the district that lacks more than others? And not just the district, but again, you'll be working with individuals for all of South Fulton. But specifically in District 1, where do you see the lack thereof of economic development in your district?
I feel in District 1, the only thing that I see personally that we're lacking is a need for things such as an urgent care. Currently, I have to go to Camp Creek, the Piedmont on Camp Creek. I feel like District 1, we do have a Piedmont facility on Cascade, but we don't have an urgent care. I feel like that is a big need within our district.
So to kind of piggyback on the question that Pastor Flint asked as it relates to working with the other city council members, of course, the way it's structured, you'll have to work with other city council members in order to get things done, to move the city forward. What skill set, what do you bring to the table that you believe will help you to work with the other city council members?
I believe that I bring honesty. I bring an open ear. I bring great communication skills. I also bring knowledge. So I would be able to work with them to be able to build a better city for the city of South Fulton. There's not one person that I've ever had to work with that I've had an issue that we could not work together as a team to get things done, as long as it made sense and it was cost effective.
Okay, thank you. Bishop Blackie?
Yes, going back to the earlier conversation about the sanitation rollout, how satisfied are you with the way things are going now with the sanitation process since the city had to start doing it themselves?
I'm going to be honest with you. I actually like the new sanitation situation that's going on. I like the fact that everything is uniformed when you ride through subdivisions. I like the fact that and the cost that was associated with it a lot of people was in panic because, everybody is used to doing things one way. So a lot of people were in panic when it came to cost effective. But I honestly would say that I do like what's going on right now with the sanitation.
Okay, thank you. Pastor Shapis.
So in regards to civic engagement, how will you ensure that residents' voices are heard in decision-making processes?
One thing that I keep hearing a lot of is with the citizens is that they took the chat away from them so that they cannot effectively communicate like they wish with the council. That's one thing that I would love to bring back is the chat so that way that they know they do have a voice and we are listening to them.
Okay, thank you. Pastor Flint.
Often we hear the phrase communication, and that has been passed around here. But I think the other part of communication is the listening. Are you willing to work and listen to others along the council and along the community? And again, I hear you saying it, but sometimes we get into positions and we fail to remember that in order to move forward, that we have to listen as well. We can do a lot of talking, but the listening is a part of it as well. So how do you see your communication style?
My communication style is I'm an effective listener. I pay attention to everything. When I say everything, everything. So I pay attention to everything. I listen to what others have to say, and I take everything into consideration. I've never been one that say, well, no, she wants to do it this way, so let's just listen to her. No, we have to listen to what everybody has to say, including the residents, because the residents are the reason why you're in office. So you have to listen to them and take what they say into consideration, because if not, it's like you're shunning them and saying, oh, I'm going to do it my way. You can't do everything your way in life. You have to listen to everyone and listen to those that it's affecting the most to come up with a better plan that's feasible for everyone.
I have a passion for seniors. Love young people, but I have a passion for seniors. And if we're honest, seniors are your biggest voting base. We love young folk, and we want them to get out and vote, but oftentimes they don't. If you had to speak directly to the seniors in District 1, what would you tell them you're going to do for them?
I want to bring programs to the rec centers for the seniors. That's another thing that I want to work on. I've been around seniors my whole life. My mom is an RN, and she does home health care. And a lot of things that I've noticed is that a lot of seniors don't have activities for them to do. They don't have the transportation for them to get to those activities. So I would love to bring that to the city of South Fulton and engage with them to find out what is it that you guys want to do. What do you want to do? What do you need in the city of South Fulton? What do you need from me to help build that gap between the seniors not having the activities that they've had? When we did the coffee and conversations with the seniors, that was one of the issues that they were saying, is that there was lack of transportation. They couldn't get around, and they couldn't get to the activities because they didn't have transportation. So I do want to bring that to the city of South Fulton and try to get a shuttle system going for them, so that when I do implement this with Parks and Recs, we can do something for them, because I know a lot of them like to go and play bingo and stuff of that nature. So I do want to bring that to them for the seniors of this South Fulton for District 1.
Thank you. Bishop Black, you have another question?
Yes. What would be your position with public safety, with the police, with the fire department? Would you be a council person that is trying to grow public safety, or would you be one trying to limit their budgeting, or how would you be?
Public safety need to grow.
Okay.
Right now, they're supposed to have 150 officers, and they're short. They recently just, and a lot of citizens, I think they don't understand the process of the police force. Once they finish police academy, they think they're supposed to go straight in the streets, and that's not how it works. So I do think that the police public safety, I do think the police department within the city of South Fulton needs to grow. It needs to be bigger, because some districts, they supposed to have about 18 beat cops, and they don't. And when you think about how many police officers that are in the city of South Fulton, we're supposed to have 150. However, they're short-staffed, and people don't take into accountability there's different types of police officers. So if you have someone that's doing admin work, they're not a street cop. So I think that we do need to up their budget a little bit so that the community can feel safe.
Thank you. Pastor Chaffetz, you have another question?
Yes, I think I have one final question. Your experience highlights opportunities you've had to sit in hiring situations and give, looks like, some feedback in terms of leadership development and hiring that would be in under your purview. Can you just give us an overview of what that process would look like for you?
The process would look like for me, I had the opportunity to sit on a board to hire a high school football coach, and I sought in the interview process to help hire a principal for a middle school. And we interviewed several principals across the country that came in for that position. And we had to pick who we thought was best. And I'm going to be honest, it was a hard decision because a lot of people came in with strong backgrounds. But a lot of the things that I was looking for is, have they worked with kids in this urban area before? Because that's a different ball game. Also, when it came to hiring a head football coach, luckily my decision that I made with that choice did amazing because now he's an athletic director at that high school. And he has several children has went on and went to college to play football under his supervision. And I still speak with him to this day. And I think that my decision making is with the principal and with the football coach was the best that I could have done.
Thank you for that. And also I see that you currently serve as a board member, and this is on as the National Compliance Officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think that would be credible information for our viewers and listeners.
Yes.
So when it would come to having to give input and feedback from your place of position as a council member to hiring certain levels of leadership for the city, what would you look for?
First, I would look for, once we get their resume, I would look at to see where they had been employed before. And I would do my research about that city and what they did to help that city and the reason why they left that city, because that makes a big difference as well. Because if you left a city because of some personal stuff and you just want to move on because things didn't go your way, I don't think you would be a good fit, because if things don't go your way in the city of South Fulton, you will up and leave us as well. So I would really do research on that individual to make sure that they are a good fit for the position that they are applying for.
Pastor Flint, you have another question?
This is just my final question. I wanted to ask you, where does your passion lie?
My passion lies with the community. My passion lies with the community. And the reason why it lies with the community, whether it's the youth, whether it's the senior, whether it's the middle age, is due to the fact that a lot of them don't have a voice. A lot of them don't speak up when things are done wrong. And my passion is to be able to have that open door policy with them, allow them to communicate with me, send me an email, text me, and say, hey, Ms. Dingle, this is what's going on and I don't like it. How can we help? I don't mind coming to your house and talking to you. I don't mind going to dinner and having a conversation. I want to be able to be that voice for those that do not have a voice or feel as though they do not have a voice.
Well, Ms. Dingle, I believe I can speak for all of the pastors on the panel here, and thank you so much for
You're welcome.
Coming out to be with us this evening. And we'll give you a final word in just a moment, but I'll turn it back over to Ms. Chapman.
Thank you, Ms. Dingle, for coming. I know the weather was bad, and thank you for reaching out. I think it was Sunday morning when we connected.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. And our goal here is to make sure that the community hear from the candidates. It's not about what these interviewers want or what even I want. It's what the community want. So I want to thank you for coming out. I want to thank you for taking the call. And we're about to wrap this thing up. It's been a long day, and some of the people was on board. They got caught in the storms or whatever, and so we'll be talking to the interviewers. We'll be back tomorrow with District 3 and 7. And so I want to thank Pastor Flint for coming. I want to thank Pastor Chavis for taking the call. I want to thank Pastor Bishop Lackey for taking the call. I want to thank Pastor Foster for not only taking the call, but opening his house, because this is his house. And it's all about the community for me. You hear a lot of stuff. I'm going to close. You hear a lot of stuff about the city of South Fulton. And I said it this morning, Miss Dingo, we just like a baby. You know, you go from breast milk to Similac, and now we on 2%. We ain't even on whole milk yet. We on 2%.
We're going to get there.
Yep, and we're going to get there. And so what I'm going to tell everybody that's watching, I want to thank you for your feedback. I want to thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow. Again, I want to thank everybody for coming, and I'm going to turn it back over to the pastor of this house.
Once again, we thank everyone for joining us online and certainly look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Ms. Dingle, I want to give you an opportunity to make a closing remark to those citizens in South Fulton, specifically District 1. I want you to look straight in that camera right there and tell them what you're going to do for them.
Hello, everyone. I just want you guys to know that I want to bring something that has not been brought to the city of South Fulton. I want you to know that you can trust me. And like Dr. Rao said earlier, there is a need for change in leadership. So I am here. I have chosen to take this call. I will not stop until I am sitting in that seat. I will be out in the district coming this weekend to meet with some of the residents. I do have a meet and greet set up. I will be posting that flyer because I know a lot of people are on Nextdoor and some are on Facebook, so that flyer will be there. So if you have any questions for me, you're more than welcome to come up to me. I'm very approachable. I'm very friendly. So we are going to make some changes within the city of South Fulton.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you again tomorrow. God bless.